It's like wrestling match and then ass, and then another wrestling match.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wrestling Archives podcast. I'm your co-host, Tim Hackman.
And I'm your co-host, Rich Sigwald.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you're having a good day. We're excited to talk to you, as always. We've got an interesting one. We got a little bit of a hybrid, a little bit of... I don't know. It's a little something new, sort of, for us, I think. It segues nicely with our interview with David Crockett, if you happen to catch that recently. That was from a few months back, and then we just reran it maybe a few weeks ago to just because we were on vacation, one, and two, because it was a really good conversation. We thought it was a good time to revisit it. But as you know, one of the things we talked about on that show was the sale of WCW to Ted Turner and the kind of the end of an era as far as WCW and Jim Crockett Promotions goes, and the start of a new era. So today what we want to talk about is the end of that next era that came after that. Sort of a timely thing, as you know, or maybe if you've seen, Vice TV is running a multi-part series on who killed WCW. The answer is just about everybody, I think. But we thought we'd talk a little bit about that, but we do it in the context of their very last pay-per-view, WCW Greed. So that's what we're gonna do. Rich, I know you were a big WCW fan. I know you watched a lot more Nitro and such than I did back in the day. What are you thinking?
At this point, I had stopped watching it.
Yeah.
By now, I never ordered their pay-per-views or anything like that. I just watched the free TV stuff. I would go to friends' houses for the pay-per-views if they ordered them or something. But this one, man, yeah. At this point, I didn't find Scott Steiner a believable main eventer. Back then, I just would have been like, well, I just don't like him. I liked him as a tag with his brother, like just being badasses together. But him solo, I never developed a taste for, because one, he looked so different from what he looked in tag competitions when they were just like living up to collegiate life. I didn't believe him as a main eventer, and it felt like they were working really hard to make you believe it. And that was, as it turns out, partially because they're dudes. Everybody else above him was gone.
Yeah.
But not gone. They were still working for the company. They were just collecting checks because they could and didn't have to work for them.
Right. Yeah, working is a bit of a stretch, but employed by the company for sure.
Yeah.
For me, Scott Steiner is maybe one of the worst all time on the mic, and that part is really rough to get over if you're going to be a main event guy. A friend of mine and I were texting about this. He said he's almost to the level of so bad he's good.
Yeah.
But for me, he's still, aside from the Steiner Math promo, he's still almost unlistenable.
It's weird because there's also a clear main eventer that's sitting right in front of their faces there, and that's Booker T, and they're not really giving him that shot. Diamond Dallas Page is past his prime at this point, and they're letting him up there. And Rick Steiner is messing around, and they're part of this new faction called the Magnificent Seven that's run with Buff Bagwell, Lex Luger, and Ric Flair. I don't know exactly what they're trying to do with it. It's kind of weird because it seems to be everybody that's in their active roster at that point. So it's almost an NWO thing again, where everybody is in it.
Yeah, it's a hot mess for sure. So if you're not familiar with it, and we wouldn't blame you if you're not, this is, again, WCW Greed, March 18th, 2001. That's when it came out. Jacksonville Memorial Coliseum, Jacksonville, Florida. Attendance a hot 5,030 heads in the building. you said roughly half of that building's capacity, right?
Yeah, when you're watching this, you can see almost the entire upper deck is covered in blackout blankets to try and make the arena look smaller. The production value of this show is in terrible condition. It is not good. It's literally just a giant screen and some, like, the metal scaffolding that you always see with 1990s wrestling shows. It's the stage. Very little pyrotechnics, very little anything.
It's bad.
You're like, it's very clear that almost all the music is just free. It's free. It's music that they got somewhere that was royalty free.
Yeah,
and
it's a step above MIDI.
Yeah, it's all terrible. This is absolutely bargain basement. It's very clear that the entire budget has been ripped away. That I think this is after the purchase by AOL and Warner, and so they've stepped in and they've said wrestling is done here. And so this is several days, just like 3 days before the final Thursday Thunder is recorded, I think, and 8 days before the final Nitro, the infamous Nitro, to where we get Tony Schiavone saying, "I never thought I'd see the day," and like Vince McMahon is there and Shane McMahon, and chaos is erupting at WCW.
Yeah, well, maybe we should have watched that Nitro while we were at it. The tagline for this one is "It's all or nothing, baby," yeah, I don't know what
it's nothing. It's nothing.
Yeah, if that's the actual choice, it's a whole lot of nothing. I would like to say that at least they tried, but they really didn't.
Yeah, there's cards of like Sunday Night Heat that have a better card than this show.
This still outdrew a current day AEW show. Just saying.
It's funny because AEW this show reminded me a lot of watching AEW.
Yeah,
AEW has better production values, but that's it.
Yeah, it's like, where are all the stars? Where are all the people that anybody would give a shit about? Why are any of these matches happening? What are the actual stories? What is this garbage? That's mostly what I was thinking.
Right. None of the lead up, like, promo video packages that they normally show on pay-per-views to tell the viewer, like, to resolve the story and fill some airtime. None of them are longer than like 30 seconds. And most of the storylines are just like, well, he hit that guy, and so now they're going to fight. Or this is the resolution of a tournament that no one's been watching on TV. You can tell that most of the town is very disheartened. Not a lot of them are putting very much effort into their matches. And they have to know by now that, like, Thunder has been canceled. Nitro has been canceled. They just are running out the rest of their spots. And at this point in time, too, Eric Bischoff is trying to put together a team of investors to buy WCW away from AOL Time Warner. But Vince McMahon steps in and beats him to the punch.
And obviously nobody was going to have the clout and the paycheck ready to go that Vince would have had at that point in time. But I will say, that this thing, this death of WCW, like, comes after the end of one of the truly fascinating and momentous runs for any professional wrestling promotion. It's the last time that anybody has mounted any kind of real opposition to the WWE. Of course, the famous, 82 weeks or whatever, that they beat Raw in the ratings. Some of the tricks and things that WCW pulled during that time, like reading the results and that sort of thing, really caught on, really did the trick. There's an interesting moment on the Who Killed WCW special. I think it's in the second episode where The Rock is talking, and it's sort of an interesting switch, right? So in the early days, it's like, well, here's what's going to happen on Raw. Like, well, never mind, I'm not going to watch that. But then as WCW kind of like slides downhill and they lose more and more stars, they read here's what's coming up on Raw, and The Rock, says, oh shit, I'm going to change the channel and check that out, and that,
right.
Yeah, it switched and had sort of the opposite effect. Instead of pulling people in, it pushed people away. So that's some of the stuff that's kind of happening. But we can kind of talk a little bit about this card, but and maybe sort of go back and forth between that and what we have picked up from the documentary series so far. And at this date, they are only up to the second episode, so we don't know the answer to who killed WCW. We have some guesses.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things in that documentary so far that you just have to take with a grain of salt. And the most amusing bit is Kevin Nash is stoned, and Bret Hart and Goldberg still absolutely fucking hate each other, but everybody loves Bret Hart.
It's great,
and nobody likes Goldberg.
It's great.
Everybody's team Bret.
Goldberg comes out looking like a total ass from this whole thing, which we kind of always knew, right? But yeah, we were messaging as we were watching this special, and it's really heartening to see how many of the guys still just absolutely fucking love Bret Hart and have nothing but the utmost respect for him. Usually in this business you get he's one of the greatest of all time, but and then you get the inevitable but. We talked about people like Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan, and there's a long but after that. But not with Bret. It's like he's one of the greatest. He's one of the best to ever do it. End of story. Kevin Nash, 100% stoned though. Like you can tell. Like it's not even like, oh haha, maybe he's stoned. It's like, no, look at this guy is fucking off his nut. Like,
he's not opening his eyes. He's kind of mumbling a little bit. There's a couple sentences in there that you're like, I don't know what he's really referring to.
Yeah.
And
his thing about Oz cracked me up. He's like, you can't be Oz, man. Oz is a geographic location.
That's really what gave it away. But then they show a clip of from the Wizard of Oz where he's like, I'm the great and powerful Oz. Like,
I feel like stoned Kevin Nash doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, and they didn't even really get into the backstory of that character. That was when Turner had just bought the MGM's back catalog for nothing. So like I think he bought like a network and it came with their whole catalog, and then he didn't want the network, and so he sold the network but asked if he could keep the catalog, and they said yes. And so he got all of like MGM's back catalog for free. And then he just started Turner Classic Movies and just played that back catalog over and over again. But along in that collection was the rights to the Wizard of Oz, and so they thought it was a great tie-in to make Oz a wrestler.
It's kind of funny. And that footage of a young Kevin Nash is unbelievable. What a freaking stud, you know, like what an absolute superstar in the making. So anyway, no, I feel like we're wandering all over the place a little bit here, but that's okay. It's kind of
what WCW did.
It's that kind of show. This card, Tony Schiavone is on announcing duties along with somebody I didn't recognize, Scott Hudson.
He doesn't even have a Wikipedia page.
Doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. That's how you know it's good. Charles Robinson, of course, Little Nate is one of the referees. Michael Buffer is on hand for the main event. Some other folks, but it's a C-string cast for sure. Do we see? I don't remember the Jason Jett versus Kwee Wee. Was that a dark match? Or was that actually on the show?
That was the first match on the card.
All right, so I didn't pay attention to that.
Your indicator of where we're at. That Kwee Wee versus Jason Jett is the opening match to a pay-per-view in WCW. And you're going to ask, who are those people? And we don't know.
Okay, moving right along. Jason Broyles, a.k.a. Jason Jett, I guess, was an ECW guy for a while. Yeah. Kwee Wee was a TNA and Luchador guy.
They put a good little show on. But, I mean, you don't know why they're wrestling each other. And what's hilarious is that Tony Schiavone at one point during this match says, "We're WCW. We built our name on veteran wrestlers."
Okay. Well, in that case, who are these fucking guys?
Right. But we all, and like he was also, we bring you the youngest talent too. And it's like, so you built your name off of what you're saying are veteran wrestlers. So you mean Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, WWF guys.
Yeah.
And then Ric Flair and Sting.
Yeah.
So.
The next match, this is also a trip. The next match is Elix Skipper and Kid Romeo versus the Filthy Animals, which is Billy Kidman and Rey Mysterio Jr. So there's at least 2 names that we recognize. And this is a tag team match for the inaugural, mind you. We're introducing a new belt at this point.
Yes.
WCW Cruiserweight Tag Team Championship. So, again, WCW did some innovative things. One of the things they did was to bring in the cruiserweights, and folks like Eddie Guerrero, kind of introduce some of those lucha elements, some of the high-flying stuff. But this ain't it. And we're introducing a tag team for these folks at the literally 11th hour, maybe even 11:58 or so.
Yeah. I mean, they have to know what's happening, and yet they're creating a new title. And no, this isn't. Yeah. The other thing, too, is that like the guy went by the name Primetime at this point, not the Elix Skipper. I don't think they ever called him that during this, but he was just going by Primetime. And I just, this was an okay match. It's cool, but it didn't feel like a pay-per-view caliber match. And it's another one of those things where it's like the ref isn't enforcing the rules whatsoever. Like, I swear they're all outside of the ring for like half of this match continuously, and there's no 10 count, there's no double count out, there's no nothing. The ref is just letting them go. They're pinning people that aren't illegal people in the match, and like and then I just felt bad for Primetime too, because it's very clear that his shoulder gets legit hurt during this match, and like he can't touch anything with his arm, and this company is going out of business.
It's so he I guess after the invasion, after the buyout, they apparently sent him to developmental. And he hung out for about 9 months or so and then got released. So, poor guy. I hope he still has that belt. I hope he and Kid Romeo got to keep those belts,
Yeah, because they were a big upset, too. Everybody, I was going into this thinking, well, Billy Kidman and Rey Mysterio are shoe-in, right? Yeah, they're the names. But they slapped it on Kid Romeo in Primetime for 8 days and then went out of business.
Yes.
I did like that there's a dude in the crowd that it's a very much a time capsule shirt, that he has a shirt that says "Make 7 Up Yours" shirt. Do you remember those? Where it said "Make 7" on the front and then 7. "Up Yours" on the back.
Yeah, so clever. Yeah. So clever. Was that the one with Orlando Jones in the commercials?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Remember when he was a thing for like 15 minutes?
Yeah. I mean, 7 Up was so popular then. There was a video game too. I had the Spot game.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, what happened to 7 Up?
It was weird, So this is March of 2001, April, May, June, July, August, September, 6 months before 9/11, and then no more 7 Up video games. No, nobody saying "Up yours" on the 7 Up commercials.
No,
look what they took from us. All right, so they win that one. 13 and a half minutes. We're all better for it. Sean Stasiak is next with Stacy Keibler in his corner. Still one of the hottest women in wrestling. She's in the top 10 for me. She's all legs. Sean is wrestling good old Bam Bam Bigelow. I was shocked to see Bam Bam here.
Yeah, and Sean Stasiak is billing himself as the Mecca of manhood.
That doesn't make sense.
No, before we had this, this match, there was the first of many little segments that are like supposedly like documentary film footage of the Magnificent Seven, and they're filming. Like Buff Bagwell is leading them around to talk to Ric Flair, Animal, and Jeff Jarrett. to talk about how they're going to handle things and help the Steiners win tonight and blah, 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 blah. None of it really makes sense. It looks incredibly low budget. There's a fake camcorder overlay, which makes no sense for it to be on. And we're not really explained why they're making a documentary or anything like that. So yeah, just like it's never explained to us really why Sean Stasiak and Bam Bam Bigelow are fighting each other.
Yeah, I think has something to do with Sean making ungentlemanly advances on Stacy, and I don't know. It doesn't fucking matter.
Bam Bam trying to defend her honor even though she's with Stasiak.
Yeah, something like that. Bam Bam gets sprayed with the hairspray and catches a neck breaker and loses that one while the ref is distracted. So say thanks for coming, Bam Bam.
Yeah.
Still love that guy. This is late Bam Bam though. This is not peak Bam Bam.
No, everybody's a mess in this show. Jesus.
Everybody's a mess. All right. Team Canada is up next. Lance Storm and Mike Awesome doing the foreign heels gimmick, insulting America. I fucking love Lance Storm. That guy's great.
Yeah.
Versus Hugh Morris and Conan. So Conan
there's solid talent in this match.
Yeah. 100%. Is Conan actually American, though? I thought he was he's from Cuba.
This was another segment that was obvious that, like, the production values are bad. Lance Storm is yelling for them to start playing the Canadian national anthem, and it never does.
I couldn't get the rights.
And he literally says, that's just another thing the sound guy is screwing up here, the incompetence here. And then in a very, like, last-minute attempt to like cover the spot, Hugh Morris comes running out to try and get a hot jump on the Canadians, and Hugh Morris's music plays, so obviously that's fine. The sound is now working, and then Conan comes down and they all start fighting, and a referee gets in the ring and they're all fighting, and a bell never rings to start this match.
Hugh Morris is an absolute unit, by the way. I wasn't familiar with him. I must have missed all of this.
He's there for the whole run of WCW, and the dude is just a beast. He's just a solid person on their card through the entire run.
Just a massive man. I guess he did come over to WWF for a bit after the merger. Looks like he stayed through 2004 or so.
Yeah, he was a trainer too. Yeah, he's Bill DeMott, so that's his real name.
Oh, Bill DeMott. Okay.
Yeah.
Was he on Tough Enough? I feel like maybe he was on Tough Enough.
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, 6'2", 280 pounds, from Ridgewood, New Jersey, billed from Paramus.
He's a tank.
He's fucking massive. I would like to see some more of that guy. I'm going to back up and check out some more Hugh Morris, I think.
Yeah, I always confused him with Scott Norton, actually, a lot. They're very similar styles, similar builds.
Yeah.
Norton's probably a bit more muscle than Bill DeMott. But, and then Mike Awesome's in this match, too, and he's great.
Yeah.
So there's talent here. They're just not doing anything with it.
Yeah. It's kind of like once they pulled out the pillars of those big names, they didn't know what to do with, who was left, so which is kind of a shame. Mike Awesome is, he just passed away, didn't he? Oh, 2007. That's been a while.
Yeah.
The Team Canada wins that one. And then right after that, Canada, of course, invaded the United States and took over, and we've all been speaking French ever since. It's too bad. We've got another championship. It's the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. We got Shane Helms. Don't forget Hurricane Helms, as he would later be. I always liked that guy. Versus Chavo Guerrero Jr.
You're cutting over all these promos. This is the only good promo in this show.
I really I didn't pay that much attention to some of this stuff.
Well, that's wise, but there's a promo that's between Dustin and Dusty Rhodes here.
Okay.
And the only thing that really comes out of it is, I got a match. This is Dusty says, I got a match. I got a match of Ric Flair's face up my ass. That's the match.
Nice. That's an old one.
it's a kiss my ass match. That they have coming up later, and that's what they're talking about. But the thing is that it's not this them being interviewed. This is like found footage of them on the surveillance camera of the locker room talking.
It's weird.
So what I'm thinking is that they actually don't have more than Tony Schiavone and Scott Hudson doing commentary. There's no one else here anymore to walk around and do interviews. There's no Gene Okerlund. There's no Bobby Heenan. There's no other personalities around that will go around and interview backstage talent. I'm sure they could have gotten Todd Pettengill for cheap or something to come and do this.
Yeah, where is Todd around this time? He should be available. Yeah, it's not good.
No.
Yeah, between that and the fake camcorder overlays, it's like you guys not. Yeah, just maybe they ran out of cameras.
Yeah. I just don't know. I don't know anymore. I literally wrote coming up here that this documentary footage is shit. I would never watch a movie filmed so poorly with all the shaky. I guess they're going for the MTV reality show look. It's just a ton of ass talk.
Too much ass talk, you might say.
That's what's happening on this show.
Welcome back to Ass Talk, ladies and gentlemen.
It's like wrestling match and then ass, and then another wrestling match.
So edgy.
Yeah.
It's like Piper's Pit, but with asses.
Yeah. Anyway. Sugar Shane Helms versus Chavo Guerrero Jr.
Singles match for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. Shane Helms takes it and gets the belt.
Go Hurricane.
Go Hurricane. He's a good guy. He's still around. He does. You see him on Raw every now and then. He runs out and breaks up a fight or whatever.
Yeah. Good social media guy, too.
Yeah.
It's fun to follow.
He's a trip.
It's an impressive win, too. He reverses Chavo into a vertebreaker and scores the pin out of that. It's pretty gnarly looking. Highly recommend the finish of that match. This is possibly the best match on the card.
Okay. I'm going to have to take your word for it.
I know I fell asleep at some point during this show. It may have been during that match. And I woke up to see the finish.
I wouldn't blame you. So, did I miss any other promos before the next match? So I should ask you before we just charge ahead.
No, we got Booker T cutting a promo that makes absolutely no sense. Except he says, save the drama for your mama. Don't hate the player, hate the game. And I don't understand what that has to do with anything with the match.
Just getting some taglines in there. You never know what's gonna stick, you know?
Right. You're just throwing spaghetti against the wall. See what
Booker T said, I just whooped your ass. Yeah. We've talked before about how sort of shittily Booker T was treated by both major promotions. You know, he had a major run, one of the all-time great runs with Harlem Heat with his brother, but then they just really never quite figured out what to do with him solo, despite the fact that he's an amazing athlete, a phenomenal talker, just, you know, an absolute unit in terms of athleticism and look. He just never, I don't know, they never found it.
I always thought he looked like an action figure.
Oh, he's
got the rubber band in him to keep him together. So he's super flexible and stuff.
It's really too bad. One of the lost opportunities. If I had a time machine and like a couple $1 million, I'd go back to like 2000. I don't know. Would you go before or after? Probably after the buyout.
And force WWE to push him.
The next match is the Natural Born Thrillers. With that is Sean O'Hare and Chuck Palumbo.
It's a good name.
Yeah, that's pretty good. They are going up against Totally Buff, which is not a good name.
No.
And that is Lex Luger and Buff Bagwell. The only thing those two guys have in common, as far as I know, is that they're like
muscles.
Yeah.
Muscles.
And this is a tag team match for the WCW World Tag Team Championship.
Yeah, and at this point, Luger is looking lean because he's getting older at this point. But he still looks incredible. but he doesn't look like the muscle on muscle guy that he was just a few years prior to this. And this is where you really notice it. Like, I feel like they had to give away a ton of free tickets for the show because there's like nobody really has any signs or anything like that. And this is the era of signs in the crowd. You know, and there was always signs about at WCW shows about how much WWF sucks and how Vince fears Turner or Bischoff, but all those signs are gone. And there's like little kids sitting ringside. Like, why would you spend ringside money for like a little kid? Like, it's just, you know, unless you're like ridiculously wealthy, but none of those people look particularly wealthy. And most of the time you can see that people were just like looking around. The ringside folks are just like looking around, taking in the crowd as opposed to watching the match, of which there wasn't much of one. This is a squash match, believe it or not.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
O'Hara and Palumbo just come out and steamroll Lex Luger, former NWA heavyweight champion, former NWA television champion, former member of the Four Horsemen, and Buff Bagwell.
Say what you want about Buff, but he is also, again, one of those like long haulers with WCW. He was there from the early 90s to the end, I'm pretty sure. So he had put in a good stretch with them. Also, just for the record, Natural Born Killers came out in 1994. This is happening in 2001.
Look. You know, the time doesn't matter with professional wrestling. How many years had gone past between the OJ chase and when they used it to represent Gold Dust running from Roddy Piper?
Yeah, well,
it's like 3 or 4 years, and they're using OJ footage. Like, come on.
On the other hand, in the early 90s, they had the Twin Towers, and in 2001, look what happened. So, look what happened.
You can't predict anything like that. Oh, here in my notes is where I wrote down that I fell asleep.
Okay, well, at least you're honest with yourself.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. Good. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
The next match, I guess.
Yeah.
Ernest the Cat Miller. Good old Ernie Miller, with Ms. Jones in his corner. As one of the Nitro girls, I think.
Yep.
He is wrestling Chris Canyon, who I think just goes by Canyon at this point, right?
Yeah.
No belt or anything, just fighting.
Gives me an idea of how long I was asleep because I didn't see any of this match.
You heard it here first, folks. This is the kind of stunning commentary that you come to.
I do remember Ernie the Cat. I remember him as a wrestler, but he's just not very interesting.
I assume that's a play on Ernie, Big Cat Ladd, right? Ernie, is it Ernie Ladd? Yeah. Who was memorable, but whatever. Ernest Clifford Miller. The Wikipedia pages on some of these guys are fascinating. Went to Savannah State University to study electrical engineering and played football. Yeah.
Well, he was in The Wrestler.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was the Ayatollah. He played the Ayatollah guy, so he's like the main guy that like Mickey Rourke's character is having the famous like retro rematch at Ring of Honor.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah, we should have asked our buddy Papa Don when he was on about that. So I'm assuming they know each other.
Well, I mean, if you believe everything Papa Don says, yes, of course he knows him.
Well, Papa Don's starting out right around this time, wasn't he? 2001, something like that.
I love you, Papa Don.
He's great. We noticed he's been using your artwork on some of his promotionals and social media, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You should have billed him for that, though.
Maybe.
Oh, well.
We got a free interview out of him, so.
Well, that's true. And we learned stuff.
Yeah.
So speaking of our buddy Booker T, he's up next against Rick Steiner, who looks, I gotta say, unrecognizable. Like, he just, like, is this like some trucker they brought in? Like, he's large, obviously, so like he's clearly an athlete or a wrestler, but like, also he, when you try to think about what he did look like back in the day and match it up with the guy that's in the ring, I was having a little bit of a hard time. But this is for the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, I recognized him through the cauliflower ear.
There's a reason he wore those headgear back in the day.
Yeah.
That shit's hard on your cartilage.
Yeah.
They start by fighting outside the ring, of course.
This is about when I woke up. Yeah, so I did write down that this was a decent match.
Yeah.
Yeah. Booker T has like some crazy reverse of just an Irish whip that he does to Steiner. But like Steiner is just so honking strong. He just picks up Booker T and throws him like multiple times. And it's just this match is wild because like also the ref doesn't know how to sell in this match.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because he takes Booker T's like finisher kick thing, the axe kick that Booker T was famous for, and he just nails the ref with it, and the ref doesn't even fall down at first from it. It's like, if that was supposed to finish off Scott Steiner, why didn't it just like obliterate the referee? I don't understand.
Yeah. He was so stunned he couldn't even fall down. That's what it was.
I know.
Yeah. No, it's a crazy one. And we've noted before that Rick Steiner is only marginally working. Like he's a lot of times just beating the fuck out of people, and he's a little more held together here, but he's still just an absolute beast. I don't know what that guy ate as a kid that made him that strong, but I wish I had some.
Maybe it's that Michigan water or something. I don't know.
I don't know. Straight out of the lake.
Yeah.
Shane Douglas comes in and interferes to help Booker T get the win on this one.
Well, he hits Booker T with a cast, right? Or does he hit Steiner with a cast? Oh yeah, he hits Steiner with the cast.
Yeah.
Steiner jumps off the top rope and then lands in the bookend from Booker T, which is for those of you unaware is the rock bottom. It's the same move. And Booker T gets the pin and the title win. Good for Booker. You got 8 days to enjoy it.
Yeah, he's killing it. Good job, Booker. Next match is we got another tag team match. Dustin and Dusty Rhodes teaming up, father and son. I love it. Going up against Ric Flair and Jeff Jarrett. Not father and son, but original and cheap imitator, I guess you could say. In a tag team match. Again, no title. They're gonna do some butt stuff. Or something. Did I say that right?
Yeah, they're gonna do butt stuff.
Okay.
That's exactly right. Flair comes out dressed in a Hawaiian shirt and dress pants.
Yeah,
and it's just like he just like casually strolls to the ring. Like, what is happening? And Dusty comes out to a really bad cover of that Real American song that I don't know if you remember when I met Jimmy Hart, he told the story of writing that song that like Dusty just came to him and was like, listen, baby, I want a song. It sounds like a black lady singing.
Right.
And he's just like, okay, Dusty. But this is like a cover of it, and it's really bad. And then Flair says he's not going to wrestle either, so I guess he's just leaving Double J to face both Dusty and Dustin.
I guess.
And Dustin is looking like real clean. It looks like he's sobered up because I think this is after one of his rehab stints.
Yeah.
So he looks great. The referee who's Charles Robinson, tries to toss Animal from ringside because this is a very logical combination of Animal from the Road Warriors with Ric Flair and Double J. One of these things is not like the other. But like Animal's not leaving and Ric Flair tries to get involved, and then Ric Flair and Charles Robinson are pushing each other, and that's like the most engaging moment through this entire pay-per-view to this point is when those two face off with each other outside. It's like, hey, there's some drama.
Yeah, that's not a good sign, guys. Not a good sign.
No. You can still see that Dusty and Rick have a lot of chemistry together when they're finally in the ring together in this match.
Mm-hmm.
Dusty is like doing his strutting around and the dancing, mocking a dazed competitor and stuff like that. It's good stuff. But then like Ric Flair lands a low blow right in front of the referee, and there is zero consequence. As far as I know, this was not a no-holds-barred match or hardcore or low blows or legal kind of match thing. Like, I don't understand how that just happens.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I guess it's kind of like everybody just sort of decided, like, you know what, none of this fucking matters. Let's just, we won't even bother. You know what's fascinating is, like, how many times at this point do you think Flair and Dusty had like been in the ring together. Like, just I can't.
Tony
even
Schiavone's
imagine.
like, this is like the 1,000th time they've faced each other, something like that. It was like ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess that chemistry just can't go away ever unless one of you dies, and that's what happens. But
Oh, spoiler alert.
yeah, sorry, Dusty passed away like 10 years ago at this point now. But yeah, and so there's a weird just like way that this match comes to a finish, that Dustin rolls Ric Flair up into a small package, and while trying to do so, Dustin rolls his ankle real bad. And you can see after the match that he's barely trying, he's struggling to walk. And it's supposed to be like his ass that gets kicked by Ric Flair, because I think that was the stipulation, like whoever pins who kisses the ass of that. But then it ends up being Jeff Jarrett's taking it, and Dusty's gonna get his butt kissed, and this is how you get pink eye.
Yeah, I had looked away. I don't know what I was doing, and then when I looked up, Dusty had his pants down and he had his shorts out. I was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ!" Yeah. All right, guys. This is. Well, I guess Vince had been doing the kiss my ass match probably at this point, right?
I don't know if this is the period of time where Vince was making everybody kiss his ass to stay hired. The timeline of WWF storylines at this point in my life have become very tangled. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that was a thing that was happening, and so this just feels kind of weak, and it's weird to see Double J involved in something like this again. Like, he's just like, he's almost like the Forrest Gump of pro wrestling. Like, he keeps showing up in these big moments, like the Ric Flair retirement match. He's in this match, which is like the last, like the big like WCW veterans facing off one more time under the WCW banner. Basically, he's there. It's just he's just constantly like popping up and like telling the president that he got shot in the ass and that he drank 12 Dr. Peppers and.
And he doesn't seem to get any older. How the fuck is that possible?
No, it's weird.
I don't get it. It's crazy. You're creeping us out, Double J. Stop it. Maybe he's a... Oh, have you been watching Fallout?
No.
On Amazon? Maybe he's a ghoul.
Oh.
Maybe. I don't know. It makes sense.
Look at you with the cool references.
I'm very hip.
Yeah.
It's a good show. I never played the video game, but it's got Walton Goggins in it, who is...
That's your boyfriend.
That's my secret boyfriend. He's awesome. I love him. And it's got a bunch of other like famous people, just in kind of like little nothing roles. Like Chris Parnell's in it for no reason. Fred Armisen's in it for no reason. What's the dude from Twin Peaks? You know who I mean. That guy. He's in it. Whatever. Anyway, good show. But there's a ghoul. There's several ghouls, and they don't die. I think Jeff Jarrett is one.
It's potentially possible.
Last match, I guess.
Yeah, we're at the last match where we get like a 30-second promo explaining why Diamond Dallas Page and Scott Steiner are fighting each other for the title, even though we've actually recently seen Diamond Dallas Page just lose to an undercarder. Like the week before, according to the storylines. But then he gets a rematch, and now he's facing Steiner for the championship. And they interestingly refer to Diamond Dallas Page as the People's Champion.
You can't do that.
No. And somehow they still have enough money to drag Michael Buffer to Jacksonville in front of 5,000 people to announce the main event, because that was WCW's thing, which I had forgotten that they had done that they would drag Michael Buffer out to the main events of all their pay-per-views to say, "Are you ready?" Because he can't say, "Are you ready to rumble?"
Yeah. His whole thing is fascinating. He got paid like tens of thousands of dollars every single time he did that.
The dude has a beautiful voice.
He does, right? I mean, you gotta work with what you got.
And he could do the Spanish too when necessary.
Yeah.
But I saw one event, and I was just reminded by my Facebook about it, that he did an event where he had to do French, and it was not good.
Oh no.
French, he should leave out the French. Just stay away from the French fighters. stick to the Spanish fighters and the English fighters and be fine. Yeah, and like we get told that like Steiner has retired Goldberg, he's retired Kevin Nash, he's retired Scott Hall, he's retired Hogan, he's retired Macho Man, and it's like, well, I guess this is a really easy way to explain why none of them are here. So awesome.
Yeah, Steiner retired all of them. You know, it happens. Yeah, just again, one of just the all-time worst on the mic. I never understood the chainmail either. I think it looks stupid. It's like it's a goofy shtick. It's very nerdy. It's very like Renaissance fair. It doesn't say badass to me. It says I had way too much money to spend on actual chainmail because that shit takes a long time to make and costs a lot of money.
I think if he had like another piece of chainmail or something like that went with it, like some like leather studded shoulder pads or something like that, like I think it would work. But literally, he would just come down in pants and the chainmail headpiece, nothing else. And I was like, that can't be comfortable either, because he's not wearing like the I can't remember what they call it, the garb that goes under the chainmail to keep it from fucking chewing your skin up. So yeah, I think if he just had a little bit like another piece of something to tie it together, like, you know, the Big Lebowski's rug really tied the room together. Like he needs some sort of pauldrons or something to tie the chainmail together. And instead, he just looks like a weirdo with like the white hair and the jet black chin thing, mustache, and the chainmail is just like. And the muscles at this point on him are so ridiculous, it makes him look like 50 years older than what he is.
Yeah. And
at this point, he's already kind of old in his career because we've been watching the Steiners since like the mid 80s.
He looks, you always kind of, when I see him from this era, I'm like, how does that guy move? Like,
yeah,
it's not good. Yeah.
No.
Anyway, well, so he's here in the main event with Medeja.
Medeja, yeah, I'm not exactly sure.
Versus Diamond Dallas Page. This is the Falls Count Anywhere match for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. You know, and Diamond Dallas Page is also somebody who is infinitely fascinating to me because he was, you know, he had a career before wrestling. He was like, 30 almost when he finally started, maybe a little older, and just a very unlikely superstar. He's tall. He's kind of gangly. He's not particularly like interesting looking. He can talk for sure, and he's got a great like, you know, sort of line of pattern and very very animated guy. And I think he like kind of got himself over, to be honest. And then I think when they sort of started to run low on talent, he was in the right place at the right time, you know.
He went from manager to wrestler, which is, it's normally the opposite way that you go. Yeah. But I mean, Diamond Dallas Page is 68 years old right now. So how old would that make him be 21 years ago? So 45 or so?
Yeah.
45 or so when this match happened, and that puts Scott Steiner at like 42 or 43 because he was born in 62. He's 61 years old now. Though Scott Steiner looks 10 to 20 years older than that at this point because he is so looking dehydrated and muscular. Like I swear he doesn't drink anything for like 4 days before he comes out in public so that he can be properly lean and dehydrated to get that musculature showing.
So that all the veins pop out.
Right, he gets that vascularity happening.
It's not healthy. It's
no.
not good for you.
And this is Falls Count Anywhere, no holds barred match. So there's no technicality in this match whatsoever. No. The most obvious one was that like they fight pretty far deep into the crowd, and there's this like the opening, there's like the passageway that they keep clear so that people can walk from the floor to the stands and back and stuff. And there is very conveniently just a kid in crutches standing there watching the action. There's nobody around him.
Yeah.
It's very clear he's a plant. And obviously Steiner takes a crutch and starts hitting DDP with it, and then the kid tosses his other crutch to DDP, who smashes Steiner with it. So that kid's mission achieved. And then at some point, Steiner starts fighting a fan.
Stupid.
Did you notice that? So
No.
Steiner tries to take something from a there's like obvious plants around the ring that have like dudes are holding like these like weird plates that have like a white stripe across them. They're like black with a white stripe across them. There's like two dudes, and he tries to take one from one guy, and he wouldn't give it up. So Steiner punches him, and then Diamond Dallas Page takes one from the other guy and smashes it over Steiner's head, and Steiner starts bleeding at that point too.
Cool.
It looks like he gets color the hard way, and he's bleeding all over the fucking place. And Diamond Dallas Page starts bleeding, and then shenanigans happens, and like Steiner starts hitting him with a very clearly gimmicked lead pipe. DDP can't raise his arm while he's in like the camel clutch, and that's the end of the match.
And that's the end of the match. Yeah. So thanks for coming, DDP.
Yeah.
You know, for me, DDP's greatest sort of contribution is aside from driving the Cadillac that brought Rhythm and Blues to the ring at an early WrestleMania, is the Diamond Cutter, because it's a phenomenal move, and has been adapted by Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton and many others. They call it all kinds of different cutters, but I think most it comes from the Diamond Cutter, which is his original thing. To me, and also his work post wrestling with yoga and getting some of these older guys kind of back into shape and off drugs and that kind of thing. Good human being, not a great match. So
no, this is no DDP versus Macho Man, which was a classic, a beautiful match. And you know, this event really encapsulates like why WCW is leaving us at this point.
For real.
Like, I can't imagine that the pay-per-view buys were very good for this event. I can't imagine that anybody was very happy with the turnout of this event. Which is funny because like there's people out there who are like, this was a pretty good pay-per-view. This was a 7 out of 10, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, Jesus, like,
what kind of scale are you working with?
And so that was like back in 2018. This one guy gave it a pretty good rating, and I was like, and all I could think of eventually was like, this looks so much like modern day AEW.
Yeah.
And it's like, so did Tony Khan watch this and be like, this is what I want every week on television. I want people fighting without knowing the story. I want zero storytelling in the ring. I want just like these cruiserweight style matches where everyone's got to get their shit in and not really tell a story. And yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want.
Write that down.
Right. And I want referees not enforcing rules. I want to always make the main event like a match where there are no rules, so that's real lazy booking, and I don't have to do much work. This is the formula. This is great.
We're going to take this all the way to the bank.
Right.
We're going to be, it's not great. I think overall, I don't know what I would even give this thing. If we on a 10-point scale,
1. If we're doing a 10-point, it's a 1.
1.5 maybe. Yeah.
99% of the Monday Night Nitros, Monday Night Raws, Thursday Night Thunders, and Thursday Night Smackdowns have better cards than this one, and you won't have to pay $30 or $40 to buy it, to see it. This is the sad, sinking. This is the iceberg,
Yeah.
And I mean, I was just thinking earlier that like the real downfall of WCW is, I mean, you have the greed of those top guys giving themselves creative control and guaranteed money contracts and stuff like that just suck the money out of the company. A lot of their contracts are actually been scanned and uploaded onto the internet recently, so I recommend looking at them. But the other thing is that the wrestling company is so tied to that TV slot.
Yeah.
And so because the company that owns the television station that they air on also owns the wrestling company. So if they decide they don't want to have wrestling on the air anymore, it's not like they can go, well, I'm going to go see if CW wants to put us on the air, or NBC or HBO or any company. See if anybody will give us an hour time slot on any night. They can't do that because their company is tied to the television slot. And so I think that's the only reason why AEW has a chance to survive, and that's why WWE in the end probably survived, is that, I mean, WWE with Monday Night Raw floated around to multiple networks. It went to USA, it went to Spike, it went to TNN, and then it came back to USA now, and now it's going to go to Netflix. So the ability for them to be a separate company away from their TV slot makes them not have to rely on television. And at this point, if WWE didn't have a TV slot, they probably would still be able to survive on house shows and their premium live events on a streaming, with their streaming deals and stuff. So, AEW, I think, would have a tough time without a TV slot, but I think AEW could survive until it landed another TV spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think their audience skews internet friendly enough, right, that they would sort of make do. They wouldn't want it to go too long, probably, but I think I agree they could probably make it work. So, yeah, I mean, so this is a fascinating little time capsule. Thought we could talk a little bit about the Who Killed WCW special in the sort of the context here. We talked a little bit at the top of the show. I mean, I think from the first two episodes, there's a lot of voices that are missing from the discussion here. It's very Eric Bischoff heavy. There's some of the other perpetrators, I would say, like Vince Russo get to say some stuff that kind of goes unchallenged. Some of the talent is here, like Nash and Goldberg and Bret, but then some of the others, I mean, obviously the dead ones, no, but Sting is around. He's not here so far. Hogan is around. He's not here so far. And then there's just some other, the usual kind of talking heads that show up for this sort of thing, like The Rock. Like, why the fuck is The Rock on here? Except that he liked Nitro. That's the dumbest excuse, and it's his production,
and his ex-wife's production.
God help us. And Kevin Sullivan has some interesting things to say. I
think he's being the most honest of them all in this.
I agree. He's unrecognizable, by the way. The first time he came out, I'm like, is that Vern Troyer? Like, what is happening? He doesn't look great. But, he definitely actually seems to have processed some of this stuff, and kind of like... He's
the only one there that was really savvy in the old school of the business. He was the booker for a long time at WCW, and he's got the wherewithal to recognize what was happening. I think I would love to talk to David Crockett again, get his reflection off of these specials, because he was there until the end. And unless he's going to show up in episodes 3 or 4, it doesn't seem like they're going to have his voice in there. And the thing is that they're talking so much to Bischoff about this, but Bischoff was fired, and they finally mentioned that in the second episode, that Bischoff is fired and at the end of 1999, and he's only an on-screen talent after that, which is an odd thing to keep, because that was never his real spiel. And honestly, I started hating the NWO once he became a member of it, and that was pretty early in the NWO. I thought it was stupid that he was part of it. But
you're basically the gimmick is that you're sabotaging your own company. It's fucking dumb. Like, I don't get it.
Right. But he talks a lot out of his ass through it, and Hogan's never going to show up on this thing, because they all want to pin it on Hogan. They all want to blame Hogan's creative control and not talk about how Kevin Nash had creative control and Scott Hall had creative control and how they rushed talent into production like Bill Goldberg and the Giant. They didn't even talk about how they pushed, like, Paul White, Big Show, the Giant. His first real match is the match where he beats Hulk Hogan for the title. Like, he's that green. He's never had a complete match. At that point, he talked in one interview that at that point he had only been shown how to run the ropes at the power plant, and in this special we get similar echoes out of Bill Goldberg when, like, Bret Hart takes a shot and, like, he's like, hey, can someone tell this idiot that it's not real?
It's not real.
And then Bill Goldberg talks about how he knocked out Scott Hall in a match, and Scott Hall was like, what the hell are you doing? What was that? And he's like, I don't know.
Kevin Nash has probably the best line on the whole thing when he says something about, like, he's like, Jesus Christ, man, this is television. Get some skills.
Yeah, that was pretty hilarious.
Oh, God.
I just...
And they show a couple of, they put a little montage together of Goldberg
just like
spearing people, and he's like, he's tackling them like he's coming off the line, after a quarterback. It's crazy. It's
yeah,
I don't know.
And like they haven't really gotten much into it, but there's several matches in his history where he's knocked himself unconscious and concussed himself doing the spear and doing some other things where, like, he doesn't. There's one match where you can literally see, like, his eyes are in a 1,000-mile stare and he's stumbling around and he's not selling. It's real. So you see them just, like, dumping all this faith into untrained green talent.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you still have Hogan and Macho Man there. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You made the NWO so big that it consumed the entire show and had its own storylines happening within it, to where this became so complicated you couldn't tell who was who or what was what anymore. Okay. And you got all your big talent have, like, guaranteed money. There's no incentive for them to come out and work.
It's been told and retold, of course, and we did the Bash at the Beach on this show, but that moment when the NWO and when Hogan is revealed and that heel turn and the fans throw in the trash, it's still one of the the all-time great moments in wrestling from this era, or maybe any era. And so it's fascinating again when you have that kind of high juxtaposed against some of these lows, including the pay-per-view we just watched, and you can see just how much potential and heat and popularity they had, and how it all just kind of gets flushed due to any number of factors: greed and incompetence and overreach. I think to an extent they lost the plot because they were so intent on taking it to Vince McMahon, that they sort of forgot, like, that you have to do a wrestling show that is actually good.
That's another one of those bullshit stories coming out of Eric Bischoff too, though. That story has changed so many times about Hulk Hogan being convinced to turn heel. Bischoff once has told that story that Hulk Hogan that he was constantly trying to convince him, come on Hulk, you can do it, and then just had Sting in the background. And now in this show, Bischoff is talking about how, like, he had Sting ready to go, and Hulk Hogan called him and said, let's do it, brother, I'm going to turn heel. And then Hogan has told the story that, like, he was really nervous about it because he was like, I've got so much merchandising money on the line, and if I turn a bad guys don't sell as much, and so the merch has to be good. And of course the NWO merch is fantastic and probably the highest selling next to the Austin 316 stuff.
Yeah. Still,
that story changes every single damn time we have one of these stories about WCW, and this is going to be one of those things to where, well, what is the real story? Who's going to document it? And though I will give them credit, because now you're like, well, where does kayfabe start and where does it end? And so you don't know what's the real story behind that anymore. It's all lost.
Yeah, the shifting storylines is fast, and Eric Bischoff is a consummate bullshitter. Hulk Hogan has a reputation as being one of the biggest bullshitters in the business, but I mean, for my money, Eric Bischoff is right there with him, and he gets it honestly, right? He came out of a sales background. He was not a wrestling guy; he was a sales guy, and that was sort of the secret of his success. But man, he is monumentally full of shit. And we talked about this a little bit on the Collision in Korea special that we also watched the Vice special on, and then we watched the pay-per-view. Like, this guy is telling some stories, as my mom would have said. But whatever. So yeah. If you watch this, obviously take everything he says with a huge grain of salt.
Right. Like he also says that the Attitude Era in WWE was a response to the NWO, and it's like, no, that is more of a response to ECW. Honestly,
right. Yeah,
it's more of a response to that, more realistic, more edgy content, foul language. It's just, there's just so many lies happening. So like the NWO, so that pay-per-view where Hogan turned, so they were still being called the Outsiders, debuted in July of 1996. So that's my birthday, actually. It premieres on July 7th. I think I mentioned that. Stone Cold, a week and a half prior, gives the Austin 3:16 speech. So that's that we're already at the Attitude Era at that point. Yeah. We're already deep into the Attitude Era. So calling the Attitude Era a response to the NWO is crap. Yes. I never thought as a viewer, I never thought anything WWF was doing was a response to what WCW was doing, except for the billionaire Ted skits.
And they were juvenile and not very good.
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. I think it's Eric stroking himself basically. But what are you gonna do? Or maybe it's like what's that book, Diffusion of Innovations? Like sometimes there's just things that just happen, worldwide. It's just like everybody discovers these things simultaneously, and like we're something in the air, right? Something in the zeitgeist. Right. It's everybody's. It's time to wear black T-shirts, black trunks, and be edgy.
We're 28 years out from that too, so memories get a little fuzzy after 28 years.
When I was watching this, I thought Bill Goldberg was totally a Stone Cold ripoff, right? He's, again, black, just plain black trunks, bald head, goatee. He was obviously bigger than Stone Cold, but he was just kind of, their badass, stripped down kind of guy. I don't know.
Right, but he wasn't a stick it to the man guy.
Well,
so
true.
I never saw that connection. I saw Goldberg more as like a Brock Lesnar kind of like prototype kind of guy. But I mean, he predates Brock Lesnar. So Brock Lesnar's a bit of a ripoff of Goldberg, but Goldberg was just a, flash in the pan kind of guy. Like I never...
Yeah.
Like he came out and kicked his ass. He was more of like a response, I felt like, to like WWF bringing in MMA style guys. I kind of felt like that response too. Like I didn't think Goldberg was all that fun. I didn't think he was all that exciting, and I never got into the hype of him. And I think that was really my fading away from WCW at that point. Was that just like, well, he's not competitive. And
right.
he just comes out and they lay down for him basically, and he doesn't seem to really know how to carry a match or wrestle, and that turns out to be the truth until and then it gets exposed when he faces Steven Regal, which is hilarious. I don't know if you've ever watched that. William Regal refuses to sell for him for a while, which is great.
I think you sent it to me. I watched it online.
Yeah.
It's not good. Well, yeah, and it's again, I never caught the bug either. I'm like, well, that's kind of boring, right? Like, you can only run that shtick for so long, whereas it just plows through everybody. So anyway,
right? I mean, the WWE did that with the Undertaker, right? The WWE Undertaker went undefeated on television from his debut to the point to where he faced Hulk Hogan at Survivor Series, right? So he went a year without the public seeing him lose, and so when you do something like that, the common sense is, well, you got to have him face the champion,
right?
And I mean, Bill Goldberg does become champion pretty quickly, but it also doesn't. They don't also build stories around it. It's just he's here, he devastates people and moves on. and like so there's no. I don't know. I think they would have if they, but they also used him as like the great savior, and that was kind of a lot of pressure to put on someone like that. I would have liked to have seen Goldberg been a heel, maybe. I don't know. But
I mean, he acted like a heel for all intents and purposes, you know, like he didn't give a shit. He didn't really pander to the fans. He just beat people up, sometimes for real. So.
It was kind of a Ken Shamrock kind of gimmick that he was doing. But Ken Shamrock knew how to wrestle.
Yeah, and Ken Shamrock had personality, which I don't think. I don't think.
Yeah,
Goldberg
I mean,
does.
you still have Goldberg saying, "I'm sorry to Bret, but get over it. Stop being a baby." Like,
yeah,
no,
dude,
Bret
you almost
is fully
killed him.
Right. Bret is also fully aware of his value as a talent and as a person. And you denied him a whole lot of money because he still had a couple decent years left in him, probably. And you just immediately cut it short. And, and it was also like Bret also talks about in the special already that like he got there in 1997 after the screw job. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I'm already ready to go back. They already don't know what to do with me. They already don't know what they're doing here. I should go back.
He and Nash are definitely the MVPs of this special. He's hilarious. Like it's like Eric Bischoff is like, well, blah blah blah, and they'll go to Goldberg, blah 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 blah, and Bret, and then they cut to Bret, and he's just like, well, these guys are all idiots. Like they're just like morons.
Yeah, I think he does use the line, "They're all a bunch of fucking idiots."
Yeah,
is what I think he says.
It's great. And him saying "No, Bill," responding to Goldberg. You've seen that video with him saying Bill Goldberg in just the most like dismissive way. It's so great. Anyway,
no, Bill. like he's like talking down to him like he's just like a child at school, and like this dude Bill Goldberg is still ripped. He's massive.
He's huge,
and Bret is like, I think Bret was implying that he kind of blames the stroke that he had on Bill Goldberg and everything. So
in his book, he definitely blames it on Bill Goldberg and that concussion. So
just for him to just be like, no, Bill, in that such a way that like he's not afraid of him whatsoever is just
If Bret Hart ever talked to me like that in that withering Canadian accent, I would just curl up and die. I wouldn't.
Yeah, just cry your eyes out for a couple hours. Put on your Bret Hart sunglasses and just feel sad. He hates me. He hates me. How can he hate me?
No. All right. Well, I don't want to drag this out too much. We got a couple more episodes to go. I don't think we're going to find out who killed WCW with any finality, but I have some suspects. Any last thoughts about this show, WCW Greed, or who killed WCW, or Bret Hart being awesome and Bill Goldberg sucking? Anything else?
I mean, we've been down on WCW on this show, and I just want to say that I was a legitimate fan of WCW and the stuff that they did. I loved the early NWO and its storylines, and they when they talk about the NWO, they always leave out the story bit that like Ted DiBiase showed up in NWO as well, like, and they were like he's financing them, and so it like added this whole. It added a third dimension to the invasion, this false WWF invasion angle that they were telling. And then they just kind of lost that thread, which was kind of a shame. But I was a fan of WCW. I was a fan of WCW, and I was a fan of NWA and Jim Crockett Promotions. And, I was a fan of WCW until that thread disappeared. And so there's nothing, so watching this show, there's nothing from the old Jim Crockett Promotions left. And even though like Lex Luger and the Steiners are there and Ric Flair is there, just their approach to professional wrestling is different at this point. And Tony Schiavone is still trying to call, and is still calling it wrestling and not sports entertainment and stuff like that. It's very still deliberate language. But it's very clear that it's not the same. It's not the same product. It's not even a direct lineage of that product, and it was time for it to end.
Let's do the in memoriam for WCW Greed. It is a relatively young card, I think, as we mentioned, but we do have a couple of folks who are no longer with us, so we just like to take a moment to pay tribute to them. So our in memoriam for WCW Greed from 2001 includes Chris Kanyon, Dusty Rhodes, Mike Awesome, Sean O'Hare, and Bam Bam Bigelow. I think that's everybody. Alrighty, folks. Well, we appreciate you listening along. We hope you enjoyed this one. Give it a watch and send us your thoughts on the social media. Find us at thewrestlingarchives.com, of course, on Facebook. And we're not so active on X anymore. I've kind of let that one go to the trolls, and we're just sort of kind of pulled back from there. But our Facebook is very active. We have a couple of groups on there, lots of good conversations and posts, so make sure you check those out. We try to get stuff up on Instagram pretty regularly. If you want to support the show, you can go to ko-fi.com/wrestlingarchives. Drop us the cost of a cup of coffee, help support our program. And we have shirts, so we have some cool stuff up on tpublic.com. Look for
you can check out our new website, our new and improved wrestlingarchives.com.
It's rad.
You can listen to the show right there on the website. No logins, no nothing, anything like that. You can click the link and you can see the last 5 episodes as well. And also there's links there that'll jump you over to our TeePublic store and to the coffee page if you want to make a little donation. But we got that nice new spiffy page. It flows much better. You get right away to the most recent episode, and it's been helpful. We've got a lot of positive feedback about it, so go check that out.
Yeah, it looks great. You did a great job on it. I noticed it works much better on my phone. The Podbean site was a great way to get started. We appreciate their platform for sure, but I had some trouble with sort of that being not terribly mobile friendly, and like the links directing me to log in instead of taking me to the show, which was kind of annoying. So
I received a lot of complaints that people were like, why is Podbean wanting me to set up an account instead of just letting me listen to the show?
I don't understand.
And we don't know what was happening there, and it doesn't seem to be isolated to just us, so that's why we jumped to our own separate website now. And you can still go to the Podbean site, and in fact, if you want to listen to something older than the last 5 episodes, our new page will direct you back to the Podbean site. But check out the new wrestlingarchives.com. It's a lot of fun. It's a good page. You'll enjoy it.
We've also put a link on there to drop us a line directly from the webpage. We had to change email addresses a couple of times. It was always hard to rattle off the correct one, so you don't have to remember any of that. You just go to wrestlingarchives.com. You go on there, you can drop us a note, tell us what you like about the show, tell us what you want us to talk about next, send us comments on things you've watched recently. So all right, so with that, we're going to wrap up for today. Thanks again for listening. I'm your co-host Tim,
and I'm your co-host Rich.
We'll see you next time, everybody.